The Joker's working on some very large plans, so large in fact that a secret organization has finally demanded the death of the Joker. And they've hired one man to get his hands around the Joker's neck and strangle him. Commissioner Gordon. This is the Comicstorian channel where I take some of your favorite trade paperbacks and single issues and I break them down into digestible bites. I give you a synopsis of the storyline, allowing you to understand what is happening so that you can go out and buy the rest of the comic book to get better context or get the next issue so you understand what is happening in the world of comic books. We make alterations to the panel's text and images to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective companies. Today we're going to be covering Joker issues 6, 7, and 8, continuing the tale of Commissioner Gordon trying to find the Joker. There was an event known as A-Day that happened over at Arkham Asylum, in which many of Arkham's inmates were murdered, and the person that is being blamed is the Joker. Immediately following A-Day, he took off. An organization then decided that the Joker has gone too far by murdering the individuals at Arkham Asylum, and they've decided to hire Commissioner Gordon with an unlimited budget to track down the Joker. He eventually did find him at a drug cartel's mansion. But the Joker got away and we discovered a new Bane, a female Bane, who's been set loose since Bane has been murdered in Arkham Asylum. The video with issues 1 through 5 I'll link down below, but if you want to make sure that you don't miss any more of the Joker storyline, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Now let's get into Joker 6, 7, and 8. With leads on where the Joker went slowly drying up, Jim Gordon finds himself in Paris, the city of love. He watches a mime perform thinking that he and his first wife would go on dates here. Not the real one, but a fancy downtown spot in Chicago. The night he proposed, he promised a honeymoon to the real Paris, and they started to imagine the trip together. But as the day grew closer, a rash of homicides broke out in Chicago's Gold Coast, all pointing to a wealthy teen. Problem was, Gordon didn't have the evidence to put that kid away, and all the other officers were drooling at the chance of closing the case with him out of town. So instead of going on that trip, Gordon canceled the trip to Paris. He broke his wife's heart. But the situation got worse. He didn't cancel, so they were charged anyway. He couldn't reschedule. And then she became pregnant with young Barbara, and they stopped talking about Paris. Now it's been a week since the Joker left him tied to a chair in Belize, after claiming that he was innocent of the murders at A-Day. Barbara tracked him to France, but that's when things got cold. He couldn't figure out where to go, so his daughter convinced him to use that unlimited black credit card and get something a little bit more comfortable. Get one of the nicest rooms in the city. So after a meal and a shower, he calls her up to go over the next move, seeing as this was a dead end. She goes on explaining that she found out some information about something weird happening at Santa Prisca. She has no intelligence about them having the ability to create a new Bane. So Jim brings up other options, other locations, other trails that Barbara could have checked. But she can't find any information on it. She realizes that there's something big going on, something that is invisible to the entire Bat family in Gotham. As for this Cressida, the one who hired Jim, well, she's living the most boring version of a lavish life ever imagined. She goes on asking him if he has access to the private jet or anything in general. Jim says that he could use it, that he would need to find a destination, so Barbara asks him if he remembers a picture that she drew for him, the one that was on the fridge. Obviously, Jim is confused. He had many pictures on the fridge, but she tells him the one with the big pair of eyes. After they hang up, Jim realizes that she was using a code phrase. She was informing him that she thinks that someone is watching him, which is funny, because he was having the same feeling since arriving to France. After getting dressed, he heads to a payphone. It's there that he calls Harvey Bullock back in Gotham, his old second-in-command, his right-hand man. He informs Harvey that he's going to need some information, and that he has an unlimited budget to pay Harvey. There's a trail in Gotham, and he needs someone off of the books to handle it. Harvey argues with him about the price, goes back and forth that he's a little bit busy, but in the end, Harvey always trusts Jim, and Harvey agrees to work with him and figure this out. But as he's closing out this conversation, Jim looks over his shoulder to see a group of police officers surrounding him. They draw their guns and they tell him to step away from the phone in French, and Jim says, "I don't speak any French. American! American!" At that moment, an older woman with black hair and a white streak running through it lights a cigarette, stating that she'd wagered that they all speak better English than him. Jim asks her if she minds telling him why they sent the French Foreign Legion down after him, and the woman exhales and tells him that it's probably the fact that his fingerprints are all over a murder scene. Jim pauses. "How many bodies?" "4. At a private laboratory in Montmartre." Jim sighs. "The damn clown." And the woman says, "Yes, the clown." I thought that might be the case. But these officers, they are, how do you say, very literal men. So how about you come with me? Jim begins to walk to the car parked beside them, stating that it sounds about right. And the woman tells him not to worry, relax. Interpol will take very good care of him. And up watching all of this is the Joker, smiling that twisted Joker grin. Meanwhile, over in Santa Prisca, a man shows Panadoro to a woman telling her that they wanted to provide the world with the Bane experience. They start with his childhood, born into a political descent, and the sentence to life in prison at birth. He then defeats the prison and goes into the world to fight the Batman. He and his people believe that this could be a major tourist destination for Americans fascinated with costumed villains, but too frightened to go to Gotham City. He and his investors would like to partner with someone who might help them convince others of the legitimacy of what they're looking to build. The woman looks back at him and tells him, I would like to meet these investors to massage any fears of my firm. Just then, the woman's cell phone rings, and she answers with a man asking, How do you have a phone? We searched you. The armed guards quickly open fire with her stating, Thanks for blowing my cover. And Barbara asks, what is going on? Are those gunshots? The woman says that she is in Santa Prisca. Send her whatever it is and she'll try to dig something up. Also tell Batman that she's still not satisfied. She is still very, very angry. Soon the woman runs into a dead end and then yells that this was very stupid. He doesn't know why anyone would be so foolish to do something like this. The woman glares back, Yeah, you certainly don't. Your cash cow murdered my father. And I won't be turning you into a horrid mascot for tourists in t-shirts. The man shouts, Who do you think you are? And as a small gun springs out of her sleeve, she fires 2 shots, telling him, My name is Pennyworth, Julia Pennyworth. But back in France, Jim looks all over the table at all of the evidence against him, laughing to himself that he knows this game. He used to do it himself. The photographs are interesting, though. Whatever was in the lab wasn't a Joker toxin, so what was it? Why did Joker come here in the first place? At that moment, the door opens and the woman from before walks in stating that she was sorry for keeping him waiting. Jim tells her, You've been on the other side of the glass for the better part of an hour. I know the trick. You put all this stuff in front of me thinking that I'd crack. However, at this point, you've checked into who I was, and you don't actually think I did it. So tell me about this. What are my fingerprints on? She pauses and then tells him, A knife. One that eviscerated 3 scientists, the injuries matching up to a number of Joker attacks, according to the case files. What is so strange about this lab? There's something there you haven't said. The woman lights a cigarette, asking if he's ever heard of the organization called The Network. Jim says once in passing. All he knows is that it's where the villains sometimes get free vacations paid for by a cabal of villains that keeps itself hidden from the superheroes, and that the Joker has taken them up on a number of occasions. Now, what did they do in this lab? She tells him that they cloned human tissue illegally. She believes that it's a service offered by the network, and if they can replicate dental molds in human tissue, they can fool law enforcement into believing someone is dead when they're not. So what does the Joker want with cloned human tissue? She tells him that's the question she's been asking herself. And then she invites him to a drink as she introduces herself as Isabella Hollows. Meanwhile, back at the clock tower, Barbara continues to monitor Cressida with Spoiler coming in to check in on things. Barbara tells Spoiler to go get some rest. This person hasn't been very interesting in the past few days. But Spoiler is the one that notices something odd. She asks, why is Cressida dressed up? You don't get fancied up for nothing, and why is she staring at the camera? At that moment, a Talon assassin lunges at them. Barbara runs for her costume, but the assassin destroyed most of her gear. She throws a batarang into his neck, and as he leans back forward, he tells them, Beware the court of thee! He leaps at them again, but before he could finish, Cassandra jumps down, hitting him. No, beware of us! The assassin jumps at them again, and Cassandra defends, countering his attacks, hitting him with every opening that she gets. Eventually, he stumbles, going out the window. Barbara says that was weird. He felt pain, didn't he? Cassandra, you can read body language. He did, didn't he? She informs him that he did, and Barbara says that that's even more interesting because Talons shouldn't feel any pain. There's something strange about all of this. Looking back at the monitors, though, they all realize that Cressida has flown the coop. This was all a distraction. Back over in Paris, Jim is sitting at a bar with the detective, Isabella. They begin to go over how Jim acts like Gotham is special, that there's great evil and villains over there. Jim informs her that with all the costumed vigilantes, of course it's different, but she tells them just because they don't wear costumes doesn't mean they don't have problems elsewhere. But as they begin to work out how they could be working together, The female Bane is towering over Isabella and reaches down, grabbing Isabella's gun, breaking her hand, crushing her finger into the gun. She then grabs Isabella by the throat. Jim attempted to stop her, but this woman shrugged him off and then pulled Isabella's arm until there's a bloody splotch and her arm is torn off of her body. She looks back at Jim, telling him, "I told you to go home, but that is no longer an option here." Later, Jim wakes back up in the back of a car, bound by tape, and he begins to hear shouting. He sees the French police are surrounding them, and this female Bane is standing there until she turns back, ripping the car door off the hinges, charging in. She uses the door as a shield as well as a weapon, bashing the officers, taking their guns, and using it to dispatch the other officers. When clear, she turns back, taking the metal door, throwing it into the air, hitting the propellers of a helicopter that has been following her, sending it into the ground. With the fiery blaze behind her, she walks up, grabbing Jim, and continues onward to her destination. She tosses him onto a boat and begins to drive away until Jim finally manages to remove the tape from his mouth, asking if Isabella is alive. "Why did you do that? Interpol wasn't even onto you. What do you even want?" She looks at him. "Vengeance. Who do you work for? Whose vengeance are you?" Vengeance pauses for a moment to steer and then looks back. "That is what I'm trying to decide. I visited the laboratory in Paris looking for the Joker, but the soldiers with me, they seemed to have their own mission, to destroy everything. There was a part of the lab that the authorities didn't get to, and inside of it was something strange. DNA samples of the most notable costumed heroes and villains, and a sample for Batman. That was missing. But there was more. A file that was left behind by the Joker, and the file read Bane Mark II, Vengeance. It deemed the Bane project had gone all too well, that he hated his enemies so much that he never even realized that hate was planted there. He was too clever, too charismatic, he could not be controlled. But the leaders of Santa Prisca valued the symbol of Bane, what he represented for their island, and the way the other nations feared them. So they made a deal with the men in the laboratory to build a new Bane, one they believed they would be able to control, one addicted to venom from birth. I was never meant to question what I was or why I did what I did. But I was not given a story of my own. I was taken out of the tube and fully formed with hatred planted into my mind. I would be unleashed with that hatred against my target." Vengeance then leans down, tearing the tape off, and Jim says, "That's a lot. But it would make sense why your superiors wanted to destroy that building. But what did you do?" She explained that she did what she had to, stopping the soldiers. And when Jim asks what is she going to do next, she explains further, telling him that she wants to be his vengeance, his passion. Give her a reason to have this hatred. She does not want to kill the clown because the generals made her want to. She does not want to be put back into a tube and made into a weapon. She does not want to be their vengeance. She wants to be Jim's. She wants to know why he hates the Joker. To be told why a good man has come to the other side of the world to stalk the Joker and kill him. There was doubt in his face back in Belize. They go back and forth for a few more moments, but it ends with her informing Jim that she knows where the Joker is. One of the doctors went missing, and he has a home located on an island. There, they will find the Joker, and death will find him. And there you have it, Joker 6, 7, and 8, continuing the story. Now, this story apparently ends on issue 11. So now we're coming to the final portion of our story, which will be coming out very soon right here at Comicstorian. If you enjoy this style of narrative reading, if you enjoy what we're doing here, make sure you support the industry by going out to your local comic book store and picking up the next issue. 9 is already out, or you can make sure you go to your local digital retailer and get it. I'll link both of those down below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and I'll see you next time right here.